Chapter 12. The Bitterest Hurt in Life. From Baffled to Fight Better by Oswald Chambers. Dated 1917. Job, chapter 18 through 20. The removal of the atmosphere of comradeship. Chapter 18. The dignity of withdrawal. Verses 1 through 4 of chapter 5. The discourse of the withdrawal, chapter 5, verses 5 through 21. The reaction of the affection of courage, chapter 19. A. The appeal of discouragedness, chapter 5, verse 1 through 5. The account of desolationness, chapter 5, verse 6 through 19. The agony of dereliction, chapter 5, verse 20 to 29. The recession of the apprehension of communion, chapter 20. The disdain of the offended, chapter 5, verse 1 through 3. The disquietness of the offensive, chapter 5, verse 4 through 29. The bitterest hurt in life is to be wounded in the house of your friends. To be wounded by an enemy is bad, but it does not take you unawares. You expect it in a measure. Number 1, the removal of the atmosphere of comradeship. Job, chapter 18. There is always an intangible something that makes a friend. It is not what he does, but what he is. One feels the better for being in the atmosphere of some men. The thing Job suffers from is that his friends have turned against him, and he has lost the atmosphere of comradeship. A. The dignity of withdrawal. Job chapter 5, verse 1 through 4. Job has no explanation for the things he is going through, no line of exonerating God. In this withdrawal of comradeship there is an acuteness of suffering which is difficult to state. Job is hurt, and his friends have not only tackled his belief, but they have now withdrawn all the support from him. In the beginning, they gave him real sympathy. The kind of sympathy that is worth its weight in gold is that which is reverent with what it cannot understand. The friends have stopped giving this to Job, and now they say, "We know why it is you suffer." By sticking to your creed, a man is able to withdraw from dignity simply because there is so much he does not see. B. The discourse of the withdrawal. Job chapter 5, verse 5 through 21. A man has to cover his retreat somehow, and Bildad withdraws in a cloud of rhetoric. He describes Job by not looking at him. He describes what Job has gone through and makes it a description of the experience of a thoroughly paced hypocrite. "I have satisfied my mind," he says, "that you are a hypocrite, and that you are suffering because you are bad." Bildad indignantly airs his complete knowledge of the psychology of wickedness as God deals with it, but eventually with as complete an ignorancy of man as of God. His indignation with Job is petty. He can almost be heard puffing with righteous annoyancy. Bildad's description of the wicked man is a covert description of Job's present condition. The speeches of Job's comforters prove that when providence or suffering contradicts any form of creedal belief, the holder of the creed gets spiteful, vindictive in his justification of what is threatened, and he no longer discerns God's truth. Number 2, the reaction of the affection of courage. Chapter 19 of Job. Bildad is certain that he is right and that Job is wrong. The puzzling thing is that Bildad can prove his statements whilst Job has to remain silent. This is one of the biggest things in life. When a man gets to reality, he has to get there alone. There is no comradeship. He may have had comradeship up to a certain point, but then he is told, "Now we have to leave you. You are outside the pale. The men who act like this have the logic of it on their side, but the men who are face to face with the facts of life know that logic is only an explanatory way of being guided through facts. It does not give you the facts themselves. A man who does not believe that the basis of things is tragic may get the best of it in argument, but not in fact. The man who gets the best of it in fact is the man who believes it but has to remain inarticulate. A. The appeal of discouragedness. Job chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. Discouragement is disenchanted egoism. An example, the heart knocked out of my self-love. Job was in love with his creed. Now his creed is gone, and he is completely at his wit's end. His friends have left him, and from the center of his discouragement, he makes his appeal to men whom he had a right to expect would stand by him. He says, "You take the side of providence of God, which is undoubtedly my enemy." This chapter is an expression of real agony and sorrow, but also a stout integrity that will not allow itself to lie for the glory of God. Job says, God seems to be my enemy providentially, and you say it is because I am bad, but I say that this is not the reason. B. The account of desolateness. Job chapter 5, verse 6 through 19. Job's statements are not colored. He simply states exactly what has happened to him. Everything has gone, and no explanation has been given. There is no bright side to some troubles. For instance, there is no reasonable hope whatever for hundreds of people after this war won, and it's shallow nonsense to say, cheer up, life is a hell of darkness of the most appalling order. Job says, know now that God hath overthrown me and hath compassed me about with his net. Job chapter 5, verse 6. There is nothing exaggerated about those words, and there are countless people in a similar condition today. The one who preaches at such things is impertinent, but the one who says, I don't see why you are going through this, it is black and desperate, but I will wait with you. It is an unspeakable benediction and sustaining. Job had no one to do this for him. His one-time friends simply added to his bitterness. They also had been hit along the line of their creed, and they were indignant and talked on religious lines. C. The agony of dereliction. Chapter 5 of Job, verses 20 through 29. In these verses, Job is not necessarily indicating anything to do with immorality, but that there is a time coming when in his own flesh there will arise an umpire who will expound what he has gone through to the justification of God, as well as to his own justification. It is heroism almost unequal to say, though he slay me, I will stick to the fact that God is love and justice and truth. I see no way out at all, but I will remain true to my belief that when the whole thing is known, God will not be condemned. All through Job refused to take an easy way out along the line of the former creed. 3. The recession of the apprehension of communion. Job chapter 20. The withdrawal of your most intimate friend with the conviction that you are wrong means the loss of the atmosphere of comradeship and of all that is represented by the closer intimacies of communion. A. The disdain of the offended. Job chapter 5, verses 1 through 3. Zohar has always spoken with dignity, although dignity is no indication of discernment. He has listened to Job's words, but not to the spirit in him. He is ashamed of the attitude his former friend has taken. A retreat from comradeship is nearly always covered by a terrific amount of utterancy, either in writing or speaking. The first man withdraws with descriptions. The second man gives a disquisition as to why he has turned on Job with disdain. B. The disquisition of the offense. Job chapter 5, verse 4 through 29. The point of mercy in Job's friends is that they do not put the curse directly on Job. Our cursing is only profane language and expression and no more. But in the case of an Arab or a Hebrew curse, the curse lies in the words themselves. And if the curse is uttered, it is impossible, according to the conviction, but that it shall fall. Zohar is giving this kind of curse only indirectly, and it gives the words tremendous power. The power of the spoken word accounts for the prominent place given to the prophesying and preaching of the Old Testament. Job's strong utterance is against the statement of his creed, not against God. The man who stands true to God behind the expression of his creed is being true to his belief in God instead of to a presentation of him which is in dispute. If you listen to a man who has been sorely hit, he may utter what to you who have not been hit sounds blasphemous. Job's claim was that these friends of his ought to have known that it was not imagination that made him speak as he did, but the fact that he was desperately hard hit. The only way out for Job is on the line of implicit confidence, such as he expresses in chapter 18, verse 15. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him, and not on the line of reason. End of chapter 12.